welcome to TEC Bike Parts. Today we're going to be showing you how to install our new 3-in-1 exhaust system onto the Trident and its sister bike, the Tiger 660. We've developed this exhaust so it's much lighter and obviously sounds much nicer than the original exhaust. We've shown you how to do it on a lightweight bike stand here. It's mostly just so we can show you clearly how everything goes on and film it properly. It's quite easy to do yourself on the side stand, on the ground, without any drama at all, no problems. All you need is basic tools. I'll show you what you need in a moment, and we'll go and unbox the kit now to show you what you get in the kit. In the kit we get 3 front pipes and our junction centre pipe, some cable ties. Very handy, we supply a spring fitting tool as well, more on that later. This is the kit of all the fixtures and fittings. I'll open that up and show you. And this is the silencer. So we've supplied it in a media blasted titanium look. It's an all stainless steel silencer, 304 stainless steel, with a real carbon end cap and a removable baffle. We used a clamp-on type. We did in development use a spring-mounted one, but we found it was a bit leaky, and we found it was a better job if we use the clamp-mount type. So it comes with a proper clamp for it as well. Now, though it's not E-marked or technically road legal because it doesn't have any emissions devices in the exhaust, we do mark on that it's BS approved. Now that's an old BS, but it does actually comply to this BS standard, and it will normally satisfy MOT testers or any in the side of the road inspection. So what else do we get in the kit? So that's the stainless steel clamp that I did mention there. Now we get our 3 CNC machine mounting adapters. And these are CNC machined out of stainless steel, and we get 3 mounting flanges. Now these can go on either way, and there's only one way that it can go on, so I'll need to show you that carefully when we're installing them. They go on like that basically. You get all the spacers necessary. Now there's a very slight difference in the way that the exhaust fits between the Tiger and the Trident, and in some cases you need to use the spacer and the longer bolt, but everything's provided in the kit. All the stainless steel mounting springs, the mounting hanger bracket that bolts the frame, some cable ties to reroute your O2 sensor, and that's the centre pipe with all TIG welding on it, hand TIG welded, and obviously the boss for the O2 sensor. Now on the front pipes, obviously they're all slightly different, different lengths and shapes. Now they're mounted 1 to 3, and you have a corresponding 1 to 3 marking on the centre collector box. So this is number 2, and that's number 2 there. That slips in like that. Now what I would recommend when you're putting it together is just put a drop of oil on these just to help it slide home and stop them sticking, because stainless to stainless is quite grippy. So well, we'll move forward to the bike now. What I'll do is we're going to weigh this and weigh the standard system, and we'll tell you what the difference in weight is at the end of the video, but it is considerably lighter than the original exhaust. Right, tools that you're going to need. Like I say, we do actually supply the spring hook tool, but what is imperative when you're fitting springs is you must wear eye protection. As if one of these flies off in your eye, you'll certainly know about it. Mechanics have lost eyes with springs coming off. So, must wear eye protection. Tools wise, basic hand tools. Ideally a 3/8 drive socket set with a 12mm, 13mm socket and an 8mm socket as well, sorry. Spanners, you're going to need a 12, a 13 and a 17mm combination spanner. You're going to need either a 6mm Allen key socket, or you can just use an ordinary 6mm Allen key if you don't have one. You will need either a wobble-ended 3/8 socket that allows you to get in the socket to swivel, or a universal joint. I find it's easier with the swivel end. And you can need a low reading torque wrench with a 3/8 drive or 3/8 drive adapter on it. The torque readings you're looking are between 16 and 25 newtons. So if you've got a torque wrench with that, if you're careful, you can do it without the torque wrench, but you know, it's at your risk. That you will also need a soft faced mallet, a rubber mallet or a plastic mallet, just to help tap the pipes home. If you don't have a soft mallet, if you get a block of wood and just wrap it in some cloth, and then you can tap that with a hammer, just something just to help ease everything together when you're assembling it. The only other thing that you're going to need is new exhaust gaskets. Now these are only available from Triumph at the moment. We do stock them. We try to keep a good stock of these on the shelf as well. But you can also get them from your local Triumph dealer, and that's the part number of them. Because they're a specially shaped D gasket. These are a one-shot only, so it's important that when you assemble the bike, you do it properly to procedure. Otherwise, you'll crush them out of shape and they won't seal properly. Then you have to buy another set. Okay, so we'll go and remove the original exhaust now, and we'll show you how to do that. Right, first thing we need to remove is, I've already removed a couple of cable ties on here, just rubber cable ties, and we need to unplug the O2 sensor. Now it has a little safety tab on, and you need to pull that tab to the outside and then just unplug it. If you haven't got fingernails to get hold of it, just use a little screwdriver to pull it out, but it should come off easy. You shouldn't have to use excessive force. Now it's important when this is disconnected that you don't turn your ignition on. So it's probably safer if you just remove the ignition key and put it somewhere else in case you do. Because if you do, you'll record a fault and you'll have to go to the dealers to get the fault cleared. So all the time this is disconnected, do not turn the ignition on. Right, the first thing we need to remove is this little 8mm bolt on the bottom of the radiator. And by removing that, it allows this link to drop down and allows you to pull the radiator forward for better access. Right, we need to remove the 6 nuts that hold the exhaust flanges onto the cylinder head. Now if the bike is not brand new or not very new, I would recommend you put some penetrating oil on all these nuts and allow them to soak for a bit first. But they are fairly well protected from the weather because they're behind the radiator there. But if you find any difficulty getting them off, they're really stiff, don't force them because you can cause some damage. Just allow them to soak for a bit so you can get them off easier. Right, I would recommend putting something, I'm just using a cardboard box here, you can use anything, it's just to help the exhaust doesn't drop down when you're loosening it because you could cause some damage to the studs, and it's really heavy, the exhaust. So I've just stuffed that under there to help hold it. I'm now going to remove all 6 of the exhaust nuts. And this is where the wobble-ended socket comes in because you can't get straight in for the radiator. So there's 2 mountings for the main silencer body. One's on the left hand side here, just behind the chain. I'll just put the side stand down there. If we remove this one fully first, it's a 12mm socket size. And this is where it's handy to have something to hold the weight. And then just pull it out. And if we go around the other side and take the other one out. So the right hand one is just above the brake pedal there. And all the way the exhaust there is now on the box holding it up. And that's the full exhaust system out. So you need to remove your lambda sensor, or O2 sensor some people call it, just with a 17mm spanner. And that's the only part you need off the original exhaust. So you need to remove your gaskets out of the cylinder head. You normally do that with a little screwdriver. Just make sure you get them all out and there's no horrible corrosion or gunge in there. That all looks pretty clean. So once you've removed and cleaned all your three gaskets, fit your new Triumph ones on. If you notice, I've got little tabs on the side that help keep them in place. And those tabs go towards the cylinder head, and they go in with a short flat side at the top and a long flat side at the bottom. Right, so as we're fitting the adapters and the flanges into each port, you might want to do what I've done, is mark the top. I've just put a dot on there. The long side is the bottom and the short side is the top. So that's the top, and I've marked the flange the correct way around into the top. So when it's together, these two holes are parallel to the line of the bottom of the flange, and they fit in like that. Now what you've got to be very careful is that it sits on top of the gasket in the recess in the cylinder head properly. Now I'll just put a couple of nuts on there, finger tight, just to hold everything together, and then just make sure everything's located properly. It's important to tighten these flanges down evenly and check all the time that that flange is approximately central and located. Now that's as much as we need to tighten it. Basically the nuts, with new gaskets, the nuts to the top of the studs. It should have a small amount of movement there, and the gasket shouldn't be crushed at all. If you crush the gasket at this stage, what you'll find is it throws these flanges out, and the pipes will go out at all sorts of strange angles, and then when you do try to force them back into place, the gaskets are already crushed where they don't want to be, and you'll probably end up having a leak. So it's important not to tighten anything up at this stage. So you can see which way the flanges go in there, with the holes sort of parallel to the bottom of each flange. Now I find it easier to fit each one of the springs on. Now the springs, the right hand one, the number 3 cylinder, fits to the right hand side. The other two, number 1 and number 2, fit to the left hand side. Now you can only get these on afterwards, but the centre one is a real swine to get in if the pipe's in the way. Right, I recommend putting just a tiny drop of oil on each end, because stainless steel tends to be quite grippy to itself, and this just helps the assembly of everything. Starting with number 2 pipe, which is the centre pipe, with the number 2 to the bottom. Insert that into the centre number 2 cylinder flange. Now if you find it's really loose and trying to slide out, you can fit the spring, but I would recommend trying to do it without that, because it just makes manoeuvring everything a lot easier. It's just a bit of annoying if it drops out while you're doing it. You notice on the centre pipe it's got markings 1, 2 and 3. So that's the way it fits on the bike, and number 2 fits to the top. So we'll fit number 2 in, which fits in fairly easy there. And next we'll fit number 1. You might find it easier to use the cardboard box trick that we did before, of just holding everything up. The next pipe I'm going to fit is number 1. Again, a drop of oil on either end. This is where it starts getting a bit fiddly, and you may find it easier if you've got somebody else to give you a hand and just hold the pipes as they're going in. And just doesn't matter if they go all the way home yet, just give them a good jiggle to where they feel about happy. If you push them all the way in, you'll find you won't get the last one in. A drop of oil, Now it's important that you fit number 2 first because it actually fits behind the other pipes. Just give them all a bit of a jiggle and push at the same time, and you'll find they'll go in. Now what you'll probably find easier now is if you pop a couple of the springs on just to help hold everything together, and the springs will help pull it all together as you're doing it. Just don't forget when you're putting the springs on to wear your safety goggles. So using the spring tool, they're all under quite a bit of tension. If you find they need adjustment, if they're not tight enough or if they're too far away, you can actually bend these tabs with a pair of pliers to adjust the tension. Do the same with your top springs. Feel how that pulls it in once you get the springs on. So once they're all in, give everything a good jiggle about. You may need to give it a tap with your rubber hammer, just to make sure everything's fully whole. Right, next we need to take our silencer mounting bracket with this locating flange at the bottom and mount it into the bolt hole that you removed the silencer from on the right hand side, using one of the shorter M8 bolts that we provide with a large washer. Again, we're not tightening anything up fully at this moment, we just put that on finger tight and it gives you quite a bit of adjustment to get everything moved to where you want it. Next we fit the silencer. Now depending on which model you're fitting this to, you may or may not need to use a spacer washer. It's important when you're positioning this that you have the bracket in the correct position and a spacer if necessary to make sure it doesn't touch the brake pedal or the swinging arm. You just have a bit of clearance, and bearing in mind that the swinging arm will actually come down. There is some weight on it there, so if you go over a jump it will come down, so you need at least a sort of a finger clearance under there. So I've nipped up the silencer there, but it's still movable. So I'm going to pull that down just a touch to get a bit more clearance on here before I tighten everything up. I haven't tightened the clamp up either yet. I'll leave that last till the exhaust hole in a nice position where it wants to be. So I need to fit the O2 sensor now. And that just screws into there. Now this, instead of being routed around the front of the engine, is going to be routed around the back, but I'll show you that in a moment. I've just nipped the silencer up to where it wants to be there now. I haven't tightened the clamp yet. All the springs on, and I've given all the pipes a good tap home. So I'm going to now start torquing the front pipes up evenly. I'll just do them up by hand a bit first. It's important that you keep the flanges parallel to keep the tension even on them. So I've tightened the front pipes just to initial torque setting of 15 Newton meters, and I'm going to tighten the exhaust mountings fully now to 19 Newton meters. And I still haven't tightened the clamp as yet. I'm going to tighten the clamp now and then retighten retorque the cylinder head nuts to 19 Newton meters as well, the same as at the back. So the final thing to do now is I've tightened the clamp between the silencer and the mid pipe, and I'm just going to go and give these a final torque to 19 newtons. So we just need to fit the radiator steer bracket and bolt. So we next need to reroute the O2 sensor cable around the back of the engine, not the front. Now you take it over the top of here, just beside where the side stand switch is, making sure, I'll show you from the other side, that it doesn't interfere with the side stand switch. And just up and over the exhaust here now, we're going to clip this up once we've got it connected, but over the exhaust mid pipe to the other side. Make sure that's the correct way around, push it in until you hear a click. Next we're going to use the cable ties to clip this up. There's a handy hole here to clip this here. And if you just pass it over the rear engine mounting bolt. So as you can see, I've clipped it up here. I've put a cable tie around this rear mounting lug here. The connector's well out, tucked it way out of there. Just make sure it's not interfering with anything on the side stand. And take it over the top, and that should be fine there. Just make sure it doesn't rub against anything or anything hot. So that's the whole system fully installed there. Don't worry too much if everything's not fully at home, because once the bike heats up and cools and stress relieves itself, the springs will tend to pull everything home. Just make sure that it all seems to fit okay, nothing's rubbing against anything else. Important thing is, because the pipes have got oil and grease from your hands on working on them, is to take it off before you fire it up and get it hot. Now you can just use ordinary WD-40 or something like brake cleaner or electrical switch cleaner, any sort of solvent cleaner. Just be careful, because a lot of solvent cleaners are inflammable, that you get it all off before you fire it up and it's all evaporated away. But this makes a big difference, because you end up getting black marks on the exhaust if they burn on. It's not the end of the world, because you can clean it off with just a grey Scotch-Brite pad, and it's probably good practice just to occasionally clean the exhaust system when you're washing the bike when it's wet with a light grey Scotch-Brite pad, and it brings it up looking like new every time. Because the marks you get on stainless steel are not the stainless steel, it's not corrosion. It's burnt on residue from the atmosphere and from road salt and water and mud. It all puts residue marks on the outside of the pipe. Underneath it's still brand new, like stainless steel, so you don't get rust on stainless steel. Okay, so we're ready to fire up there now.